Bienvenidos a Cordkillers. Nuestra misión is to report the intel from the front lines of the cord-cutting revolution so that you, my friends, can watch what you love, when you want, where you want, and on whatever device you want. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Hey, man, I got a moral conundrum that I need help on. We just saw in the promo there, that's AMC's new original television show, Preacher, based on the best-selling comic book that everyone on the planet loves. Max Landis tweets out, well, it doesn't look like the Preacher that I know from the comics, but, I'll take whatever Preacher I can get. Also, by the way, read the comics. So now I have to decide, do I watch the show and then get the deeper experience with the original source material, or do I go to the source material and be one of those guys who's annoyed with the changes in the show? Help me, Andrew Main. I trust you.
I love Dominic Cooper. I don't know if I trust his southern accent in that first scene there, though.
Well, I don't know, Andrew. It seemed perfectly legit to me.
His Howard Stark, spot on. As far as, my experience with Howard Stark. That was a little bit, but that often happens. Like, you watch, like, I remember the first few episodes of, like, Walking Dead and Andrew Lincoln's, his dialect finally it took a while to sort of settle in, but you're very aware that this person natively speaks with a very different accent than the one they're doing. But every time something comes into a new medium, it has to change. It has to evolve. It has to, become a different thing. TV show is different than a comic. So I'm a big believer, embrace the really expensive version as I did. I gave up Game of Thrones as soon as I overheard in my agents, the building of my agency, people talking about casting Peter Dinklage as Tyrion Lannister. And I'm like,
that's when you gave up on the books, right?
And I'm like, I'm stopping listening to these audiobooks right now. I'm waiting for the authentic TV version.
What say you, Tom?
Well, I, like you, have always heard great things about The Preacher, but there are too many great things in this world, and I haven't got around to reading the comics, so I'm in the same conundrum. I think I may try going TV first. Because it's been a while. I mean, I had read Game of Thrones already. I'd read Walking Dead already. So I haven't had this opportunity for something that looks as good as this does. I think I might do it TV first.
I tried I had a friend that's super, super big Preacher fan, and like I read a couple, and I didn't like dislike it, but it wasn't like, oh man, I'm pulled into this. So I'm willing to give it a TV shot.
It's too late for you, though.
We should probably take a moment to point out that our guest today is television's own Don't Trust Andrew Main. Andrew Main himself, best-selling author of several science fiction, fantasy, action drama books, and of course his latest, How to Write a Novella in 24 Hours, and other questionable, and I'm trying to read the rest off of your Skype, but you just took it off screen, and other questionable and possibly insane advice on creativity for writers. Andrew Main, thank you so much for joining us, bud.
Hey, thanks. I'm not here to plug my stuff, guys. I just want to make that very clear.
Well, it was great having you, Andrew. We'll see you later.
Number 15 book on creativity and authorship right now on Amazon.
The book is called How to...
Anyhow.
Right. No, Andrew is really going to stick around and talk about cord cutting with us, starting with our primary target. Or shall I say, going boldly into our primary target. The Twitterverse went aflame this morning with the news that Star Trek will be returning to televisions, and I say that particularly to televisions, January 2017. Alex Kurtzman, who has written Star Trek movies under the J.J. Abrams version of the movie franchise, also produced Fringe, will be heading up the show. There will be new characters. It will not be related to the feature films. In their quote, they said it will introduce new characters seeking imaginative new worlds and new civilizations while exploring the dramatic contemporary themes that have been a signature of the franchise since its inception in 1966. And of course, next year is the 50th anniversary. A preview episode, the very first episode, will be premiered on CBS television. And then after that, you'll have to get them on CBS All Access for $6 a month.
That is the most insane part of the stuff that first thing I did was look at the PR release, and I was blown away. I was like, whoa, this looks like a freaking Cordkillers story all of a sudden. What a bold adventure. Let's go right now to Spock on the line. Spock, what's up? What do your eyebrows say? Okay, he's very...
Gentlemen, as the owner of the Star Trek pop-up book, the Star Trek, the motion picture, and These Are the Voyages, the two of, I think, the only three existing Star Trek pop-up books here. Very bold move. Digital only. They're like, how do we get a bunch of nerds to sign up for online service? I know. Firefly. Oh, wait, we don't own that. What else can we do?
Community.
Wait, didn't work.
Oh,
okay.
doggone it. What about bringing back Arrested Development?
It's the Netflix is doing that sort of.
Oh, doggone it.
I was just reading Federation the first 150 years here, and it turns out we don't know what happens after the first 150 years, so maybe they'll set it there. Brian's got the right question though, which is this is the way you get people to plunk down $6 a month for CBS, and I've seen all kinds of people kvetching about this today and angry, saying I don't want to pay $6, I don't want to have to buy some service, I'm disappointed, I'm mad. A lot of those people will probably go ahead and pay $6 a month once they can't get episode 2.
I mean,
Unless
it's
it
$6 a month. If you're like, I dropped 20 without thinking to buy Flash, even though I knew it was probably going to come out on Netflix. Once they drop the price on iTunes for seasons, it's going to be on Netflix. It's a little pro tip. So, and you do that, like, what am I paying per month for HBO, even though there's nothing I want to watch on it right now? So, that's the thing is, keep in mind, CBS's online venture has all of the back catalog of Star Trek, right? Is that all of the different Star Trek shows through history?
Yeah. So a little interesting fact here. Viacom, a separate company from CBS, owns the movies. CBS Incorporated owns the TV shows and the merchandising and StarTrek.com. So yeah, CBS gets to license out Star Trek, the original series, Star Trek, the animated series, there's some rights issues with that one a little bit, but they mostly get to license it out. The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager.
Right. So picture this. Let's take CBS, the word CBS out of this, and instead let's pretend it's like a WWE announcement where it's like Star Trek pulls a Netflix, announces its own network. For only $6 a month, you'll get all the back catalog plus new episodes of a brand new Star Trek franchise that's premiering right now that has folks who worked on the movie. Like, that says to me, like, I think we'd all be really excited at $6
I'm signing
a
up
month.
for that right now, Brian.
But somehow the fact that it was like, oh, also it'll have the entire lineup of CBS's programming. Then all of a sudden we're like, nah, I don't know. I don't know if I
that's
want to
just
buy it.
It's like, we're like, oh, we want it free, we want it this, and Yahoo's like, oh, guys, we'll give you community. You want community? We'll bring a community. How about if we bring a community? Like, yay! Yeah, I'll watch it later.
Yeah, they should pitch it as the Can Be Star Trek All Access.
Yeah.
CBS. I do think, though, we are starting to see legitimate subscription fatigue.
Yes.
Where people said, okay, I'll add Netflix. Okay, I'll add Hulu. Okay, well, I guess I'm already getting the shipping, so I'll do Amazon Prime. Oh, and now I want HBO Now. And do I want Showtime? And now there's Crackle. And there's this animated thing, and now there's this other indie film one, and it's some people are looking at it like too much choice.
Well, especially, and CBS has the hardest row to hoe because they're having to explain why you should start paying for something that was always free before. And if there's one thing the internet hates, it's paying for something that used to be free.
Yeah, but that's the weird thing is we're saying that it used to be free, but this show never existed before. And because it's CBS, we're like, well, CBS always gives me free things. And
right,
that's,
well, which is why maybe, and here's my nutty idea, they shouldn't have called it CBS. Maybe after spending 65 years building a network that means one thing, free ad-supported content flowing down a fire hose into your apartment or house every single day for your entire life, maybe you don't use those letters to mean a svelte internet-only property that gives you back catalogs for niche programming and exclusive access to stuff that geeks gonna love.
CBS All Access gives you current live CBS programming in many markets,
I mean,
but also gives you catch-up stuff. So for people who are like, I live in a really crappy place where I can't get CBS over the air, and I love my NCIS, and yet Aereo was ruled illegal, I will pay for CBS All Access. You kind of have to name it CBS.
Somebody points out in the chat room that it still has commercials, which was why I never signed up for Hulu. First like, hey, we're going to do Hulu. I'm like, sounds awesome. Oh, yeah, and because people who are willing to shell out money to buy programming online are actually the people our advertisers really, really want to get, we're going to put ads on there. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. not going to do it.
And it's not a rational decision, right? I mean, it's like even if you find yourself in a position where you're like, oh, I hate that I can only watch this. I really wish I could watch this on my iPad or on my television, in the living room. And it's like, it doesn't matter. You're like, no, they're charging and they have ads. So I hate it.
Well, and
I don't
again,
watch anything with ads.
Commercials bring down the price to $6. Hulu without commercials is $12. HBO now is $15. Granted, Amazon or Netflix is cheaper at I think what is the lowest price you can get if you're a new subscriber now? Is it $9?
$9.99.
I think it's $7 if you don't go for HD.
Okay,
wow.
so $7.99 at standard def. Let's call it $8.99 then. Who doesn't want standard? Come on, everybody wants HD.
But I don't. The reason I didn't do Hulu is because of commercials. I don't watch broadcast TV because of commercials. I don't, so it's like I will pay I buy tons of stuff on iTunes. Like I'll pay not to have to watch that stupid stuff.
But that's why you do Star Trek. Because
if it's no commercials.
Well, no, but and it may not convince you, Andrew Main, but there's a lot of people who feel similarly to you who are so into Star Trek that they'll be like, oh, fine, I need to watch it. I'll watch it with the stupid commercials. And that's why I think it'll be really interesting to see if CBS makes these episodes available through Vudu and iTunes and Amazon's.
Oh, they can't though. They can't.
Store.
If what they're selling is the exclusivity, then it's like I feel totally betrayed when 4 weeks later it shows up on Hulu and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I can't go buy House of Cards the next day in iTunes, right?
Yeah. And which
one
makes
would assume this will be the only way to get it for at least a year. They'll go on some kind of the whole season is now on iTunes because the season 2 is coming out in a few weeks, sort of situation. In which case, Star Trek fans will plunk down the $6 even with commercials.
I'm gonna have a little wait and see too, because I like Kurtz, but this is the guy that did Spider-Man 2, Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, and a few other films and stuff like that. That and The Island and stuff that I'm like. Let's see what the team together and a great team. It is great stuff.
You make a very good point where it all comes down to the quality of the product, right? If this is a House of Cards, if they show, because keep in mind, as part of this deal, they're going to show the first episode on regular old CBS. So everyone who's a regular CBS old school television guy is like, you ready for a new Star Trek? And they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is the best thing I've ever seen. It's everything I ever wanted. They're like, psych, it's only online. That's what it's going to have to be that good to get people to bridge that gap, because otherwise they're going to spend a lot of money. And if they don't see the numbers, if it pulls a community where it's not enough to get over the hump of getting into the environment, because again, a lot of, Community was a big bet for Yahoo, but the Yahoo player was terrible and people hated the experience. And they're like, oh, I'll get around to watching it later when it's not so terrible.
There's a little bit of that principle too, though, of I paid $6, I'm going to like it. Versus Community, where it's like, I didn't pay anything for this. Who cares? I'm not going to watch the next episode.
Nope, that's a good point. Although, but again, you get to the ads thing. It's like you pay $6 cover charge and you get into what looks like a free club. I don't know.
Wait for the 2017 version of CBS All Access for $10 a month that eliminates ads.
Eventually.
Listen, I think some TV Star Trek, I love Next Generation. And then that was the end of it.
Well, and that's just it, right? If you pull a Voyager, and there are people who really love the way Voyager ended, but it did have a soft start. And certainly Enterprise had a soft launch or whatever. They can do nothing but swing for the fences on this one. The first episode has to blow us away.
The problem I think Voyager suffered from comparison problems. If Voyager had been launched without any other Star Treks having preceded it, I thought it was the strongest of the 3 launches. I'll put the first season of Voyager up against some of those first season Next Generation episodes by far. But people were like, yeah, okay, I've seen Captains before. I'd rather see Jean-Luc Picard do that than Catherine Janeway because I don't know her yet. This won't suffer from that. This suffers from the opposite of like, oh my gosh, I've been dying for Star Trek on TV for so long. I'm not burnt out. I don't see Enterprise as them running out of gas anymore. I'm ready for something. They better fulfill. Because if that first episode is disappointing, then the whole thing is blown.
So I think it's a good time to kick it over to our fabulous chat realm. Audience out there listening right now, write us at cordkillers@gmail.com and tell us how good does this have to be for you to pay $6 a month to get on. Because keep in mind, you could subscribe and then 3 months later, it's run its course. You cancel and it costs you $18 to get a season, which again,
ain't bad
with
really.
Ads. But hopefully you'll dig the environment.
All right. Hopefully you dig our environment here on Cordkillers as well. And maybe you're willing. Are you willing to support the show? go to patreon.com/Cordkillers. Join more than 2,000 folks who make the show possible without ads.
Yeah, dude. I mean, well, we kind of advertise our own stuff, but
That's fair. That's fair. We do,
but we do
advertise
take
our own
we
thing,
do
but
take a
don't
break
take
to
outside
thank
advertisements.
everyone. But hopefully, everyone feels super rad for it. Look, if you get value out of the show that we do, then hopefully you'll provide a little bit of value to us. 50 cents, $1 an episode. It may not mean it'll mean nothing to you. You'll never even notice it at the end of the year. But meanwhile, it makes a gargantuan difference to us.
Let us move on to our signals intelligence. Actually, W. Scott has one called me out. He's like, Tom used to work for CBS. I'm like, oh, actually, that's the only like content conflicting stock I own.
Oh, really?
I don't own any tech or media stocks, except I still own some CBS stock as part of my retirement plan from when I was working for CNET.
That's
as part of
amazing.
CBS. So there you go, disclosed. CNET, speaking of, did an interview with Sling TV CEO Roger Lynch, talking about a lot of things like the next app. Well, actually, it's more of an enabling that'll be out for Sling TV is support for Chromecast. No word on exactly when, but they're working on it. They're already available for Roku, Fire TV, Nexus, Xbox One, a few other platforms like your desktop. Lynch says more people are adding Sling and keeping cable than he expected. He says it's somewhere between 5 and 10% of their subscribers actually have cable TV and then buy Sling on top of it. He also said they got more on-demand attention than they expected. The more on-demand they add, the more people watch it. So it's something they definitely go back to the channels that have signed on and ask for more whenever they can. And he says people want to be on Sling TV now. The quote is, when we were first talking to programmers about what ultimately became Sling TV, we were selling them on the idea. Now programmers who aren't on Sling TV are selling us on the fact that they should be.
Now, does that mean like originals? Like, are we looking at a future where there could be a Sling TV version of this Star Trek deal that we just talked about?
Oh no, we're not talking about channels.
Okay, so providers. Got it. I thought you meant content providers.
Programmers meaning AMC, History Channel. Those are on Sling TV, but I don't know what's a good. MSNBC is not. So
right.
MSNBC might be coming and saying, well, let's strike a deal. You guys seem to be having a good thing over there.
I mean, I tell you, it's the power of having any kind of core nucleus. And we talked about this when I went to Kuala Lumpur and gave that little talk. Like, if I ever work a community college, all I need is 2 rows of 4 chairs per row, and I can perform for 8 people, but I'm performing for 8 interested bodies. By the end of the show, we'll have 300 people all gathered around, all watching. If I start without that nucleus there's no energy for people to get sucked into and want to be a part of. And so likewise, Sling TV, just needs to be good enough that it's like, we want eyeballs, and guess what? This is where they're moving
remember,
to.
we talked about when they launched how there were restrictions that if they got too many subscribers, then the deal had to be renegotiated because people were afraid it would catch on too fast and undermine them. But I think Sling TV has positioned itself well to be the place that says, hey, we're actually helping you more than hurting you. You want to be a part of this.
Yeah. What about you, Andrew? Do you have a fiery take on this?
No, I'm so Sling ignorant. I have a Sling box that's like 10 years old that's collecting dust on a TV in
Different
South
thing.
Florida.
Now, obviously,
Same
this is
company,
it.
but
This
totally
is it.
different thing.
Yeah, this is, and we talked about this even as Dish launched Sling. It took me a few stories before I was like, wait, so this doesn't have anything to do with the other Sling box?
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's a different
Or Sling
thing.
Blade.
Yeah.
Some people call it a Kaiser Blade. Doesn't have
Yeah,
any.
no, I'm aware that it changed. I'm just saying that how ignorant I have been about this because like.
That's all.
Well,
That's
I'll
all.
tell
That
you
came
what.
out.
What's interesting about Sling TV is that, for instance, I wanted to watch Star Wars Rebels, and I don't have DirecTV anymore. So I added the kids package for $5 a month to Sling TV just to get Disney XD, which has Star Wars Rebels. And I generally miss it on the night it's on, but I don't care about watching it immediately. I just want to have access to it. It's available on demand through Sling TV. So rather than buy a season pass, which would have been more expensive, I have this option. Also, if I wanted to watch Major League Baseball, but a bunch of the games were on TBS. TBS is part of the $20 package you get out of Sling TV, as is ESPN. So it depends on what you want to watch. If you're not into any of the offerings that are in the channels, or you don't care about live television, specifically sports, or maybe news, they have CNN on there, it's probably not something that you need to have. But I think it's so wonderful to have it as a modular component. And I know subscription fatigue is one of those things that people are getting, but to me it's like, oh, for certain things that I need to be able to watch I have an affordable component that I can plug in, and I can cancel it anytime I want. I can change the packages anytime I want. I can change those packages online. I don't have to actually call them and talk to them like I did with DirecTV. So it seems to be fulfilling a demand for me, but I could see where it wouldn't work for everyone, and that's the brilliance of it.
Well, and again, what I loved about it, what it caused me to make the jump into a cable light experience was that it's only $20, and it got my kids no longer fuss at me because they want Cartoon Network, because this all started because Josie came down and she's like, hey, so I've watched all the little clips on the adult or on the Cartoon Network website. I almost said Adult Swim, which would have been a very irresponsible parenting move for me, but I watched all the clips. I want to watch full episodes of Cartoon Network stuff, and so it was just like, it was one button, $20, and it gave me access to watch Rick and Morty live when it came out. It's so far it's been so worth it for me.
Now, a Sling TV spokeswoman said the company is evaluating development of an app for Apple TV, but they don't have anything else to say. And if you're wondering about apps for Apple TV, there's an SDK and an app store on the brand new Apple TV, which we're going to talk about in our Gear Up segment.
Was that a segue?
So, according to Variety, 44% of people in a survey have the same ignorance that I do as far as the brand differentiations between Slingbox and Sling TV.
I believe it, man. I believe it. 44% of the hosts on this show had that exact same problem until they rub their noses in it.
Yeah, I mean, my perception
segments.
is I always thought that was what it evolved into. That it was the because I had the box, I ignored it, and then this thing comes Sling TV. I'm like, I guess now they just sort of get rid of the box and use the internet, kind of thing. And then no.
Hey Tom, let's move into the Gear Up segment.
Oh, sure, when Brian says it.
I'm blaming Bryce. Bryce saw that Andrew had a point and lingered the camera on him, and then once the floodgates open, it kept going.
Hey, Andrew Main, did you buy an Apple TV?
I did buy an Apple TV.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about it. I bought one. Bryce bought one. So, I mean, mostly there's not much news to say other than it's here, and we'll tell you our impressions about it. There are a bunch of people trying to figure out what the most popular apps in the App Store are, and so far, mostly it's games. In fact, Netflix, according to these sources, is number 32 in the free apps. Rayman and Crossy Road are the top free apps, followed by HBO Now and Nat Geo. That to me says we probably don't have a critical mass of people installing the Apple TV and downloading things quite yet. But let's let our guest go first. Andrew, what did you think of this thing?
So it's a dramatic improvement over the existing Apple TV. Apple TV. That's absolutely for sure. But when you go log on and the on-screen keyboard comes up, and you got to go blip, 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 blip across and blip, 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 blip back. And I'm like, I'll just take out my iPhone and I'll use the remote control app on there. Nope. That was a bit of a fail for me. And again, I love the overall potential of the product, but I got nervous when they did the product announcement, and the woman who was running that, who did this keynote on that, said, hey, first thing I'm going to show you is all these really cool screensavers. I'm like, you're going to demo what the product, when it's not being used, what it looks like.
To be
first.
fair, they are gorgeous.
I think this is half-baked, guys.
Those screensavers are brilliant.
Oh, they're beautiful. They're beautiful, but that's not what I would call leading with what is cool. So I got the game Lumos City or whatever on it, which is beautiful, but it was like trying to dial a telephone with my toes. It was just...
Well, and they fool you, right? Because they allow you to log into your Apple account with your phone at the beginning if you want. And I'm like, this is great. I don't have to use the onboard keyboard. I'm going to be signed into everything. And then 5 more times after that, during setup, it asked me for my Apple account.
And
I had to
the
do
same
it
information every single time.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, of course, with Netflix, I had to do my entry. With Hulu, I had to do my entry. Thankfully, Watch ESPN lets you do it online, which is way smarter. That's what all the apps should do, is just go to a laptop and do it there. At least give you that option. But yeah, that on-screen keyboard, it's like a little skill. It's a little game. You're like, really?
And with the touchpad, because it's so new, you're still trying to get a good feel on how far you need to flick it to get.
Yeah, I went to
letter.
the highest, the slowest setting on that too, to adjust that. And the problem we're gonna have is you know, like for games and stuff is that, and I get why Apple's like, hey, we want this touchpad to work like touch does on the phone. And if you make a game on the phone, we want it to work on here. But there's this weird triangulation there where it's going to be a challenge to create stuff that's going to be fun and we like or whatever, like, you know, because every game has to work with that pad. You can't have, hey, this is a controller game, which I kind of get, but man, my experience with the first games is just.
So what's
And
it
it
like
was-
using it as a gaming device?
I played Crossy Road. Crossy Road works like Crossy Road, and it's generally pretty there. Rayman's weird because it's like an auto runner game. Like you
All of a
there's
sudden,
no-
it's just one of those jump. Your only task is to jump at the right time, or
sort of, but also you can swipe to change directions, and you click to jump, and there's attack buttons. He just doesn't stop moving. I guess it's like a regular Rayman game, but you don't tell him to move. He just moves automatically, which is weird as a platforming thing. Shadowmatic, the shadow silhouette sort of game works pretty well. Like you could play the totality of that game, but also it's not as direct as using the phone screen because
that's the problem is that you're using chopsticks to navigate something. You're not. Beautiful thing about touch was you're touching the thing and interacting it. Here, it's why they didn't want to let you hook up a mouse to an iPad. You know, why Apple said, no, we don't want this. This is the primary interface. Now, it reminds me of like all the bad Microsoft, you know, interfaces and stuff. You know.
Now, it may or may not be a good gaming machine, but it is decent for video. It doesn't support 4K, but the one thing that I absolutely loved was Siri while watching a video. I talked about on DTNS that I had some problems. They're about 50-50 in the main screen. One time I said, show me the latest episode of Haven, and it showed me Safe Haven, the movie. Another time I said, show me the latest episode of Haven, and it went to my season pass and found the latest episode of Haven out of my iTunes subscription. So it doesn't seem to be very consistent. I got in a big argument with Allison Sheridan over the weekend over the fact that I said, show me Mark Hamill movies, and it didn't show me any Star Wars movies. And she said, well, that's because you didn't scroll to the right. If you scroll to the right, the Star Wars movies are listed. They're in there. I'm like, yeah, but that's not optimal. But when you're in a video and you're watching and you say, and you're like, what did he say? It really works. It like backs up 15 seconds, turns on closed captioning, plays it again, and tells you what the person said, which I know, Brian, you always have closed captioning on anyway. But that's kind of a revelation for me when I get distracted.
The what did he just say command always works for you?
Yeah, it's worked every time I've used it.
It has stopped working for me. It worked one day.
What?
And it'll skip back, but it will not turn the captions on. It will not work on HBO or on Hulu. I haven't tried it with Netflix.
Oh, now see, I was only using it on actual iTunes videos, so that may be the difference right there.
I was using it on Netflix. It worked fine.
Then maybe it's Hulu and HBO.
that would not surprise me because we've talked before about how on HBO Now's player the subtitles are garbage. The closed captioning is like, I mean, I'm a fan. I always have it turned on. I don't bother with HBO Now because it's always that gigantic.
But on the set top, the subtitles are fine because it uses the standard subtitle overlays.
Right,
So
but I'm saying like on HBO Now, they did not give that attention to quality on the web-based browser, so it does not surprise me that they would not give that attention to quality with the APIs and the behind-the-scenes stuff. So it might not play friendly with the Apple interface.
maybe.
Now, that touchpad on the remote, too, while it's awful for text input, is actually great for scrubbing. I don't know if you guys tried to do that, just any kind of like getting from one place to another in a video. It's the only set-top box where I actually feel like it works.
I mean, I'm very optimistic despite the things that just seemed to me like it was sort of half-baked in some things. I'm very optimistic about it, but like, you know, for watching video, as you pointed out, I was watching Addams Family, you know, love that movie on Netflix, and then it's like, oh, go back, do that. Wonderful, absolutely great. And that is super useful. I do think it's going to become a big gaming platform, not in the way that we expect, you know, in the same way that like, you know, mobile apps changed with the iPhone and what gaming became on there. I think that this is not going to be your first choice of a platform shooter or whatever like that, but other kinds of games and interactive stuff, family things or fun stuff like that, I think will be huge on here. But I went into this sort of expectation like, oh, let me try and play this like I would have played a Nintendo or something like that. That did not work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting that, that like you said, that Netflix was number 34. It's I get it. People want to try the newness out with their Apple TVs, but shouldn't at some point we hit equilibrium? If this is primarily a video distribution platform,
these are folks who are like spoofing headers and stuff to get data from inside the Apple Store. My guess is they're not getting complete data, and also not that many people have probably bought and set up the Apple TV yet to give you, a statistical significant representation.
Yeah, I think all the early adopters already have like a box or something they're using too.
Yeah. Yeah, right. The early adopters, you're absolutely right, are more likely to have already had an old Apple TV that they're still using, or a Roku box that they use for Netflix, and they're like, well, I'm not going to put Netflix on this thing right away. I can do that on my Roku. I'll try Crossy Road. I'll try Rayman, et cetera, like you guys did. I mean, Neshcom, you went right to the two most popular apps right away, which makes sense. So,
well, this is why something like the upcoming 4K Roku is probably well positioned, because they get to come in and say, we're going to give you Netflix like you've never seen it before. You're going to plug it in and you're going to see the highest definition ultra HD experience possible. You'll experience your favorite movies again, like that. It speaks to the core audience. Yes, it'll do games and all that other stuff, but it'll be like that first time you see a color television, first time you see HD.
I've yet to see a streaming 4K signal that wasn't garbage.
Well, that's fine. I mean, when it becomes, I'm saying,
and the 4K television footprint is still pretty small. So.
Correct. But what I'm saying is it offers a first-time experience that is unique, that is also right within the core demographic, the core use for the box. You buy the box and you want it to play video, and it gives you that something that you haven't seen on video before.
I'll be honest, the best thing the Apple TV does, I mean, the voice command thing is pretty good, but Roku has voice commands too. And obviously the Amazon Fire TV has voice commands. The best thing Apple TV does is give you that pleasant interface. I will say Apple TV definitely has the most pleasant interface. Roku's is always a little boxy and a little clunky. It gets things done well, but it's not necessarily the best looking. Amazon just kind of, it has a decent interface. It's nice and snappy and everything, but sometimes it feels like it's a little complex. Apple TV, you feel like you're at a spa or using a Nintendo.
Yeah, it was very Wii-like. That was the thing I realized was very Wii-like. And I have a Fire TV that's collecting dust. I got one of the first ones that came out, and then there was nothing in the game store. It was just a bunch of, kind of most part garbage titles. And then the interface, it was always going to push the thing, the pay to watch stuff over subscription stuff on, let's say, Netflix or anything like that. So I just stopped using it and then just collected dust.
Yeah.
I wonder if the numbers they're pulling are only showing new purchases, because it will show you your purchased apps in the Apple TV, because it's tied into the iOS store, and you can re-download them, but those may not be counting as purchases, in which case everybody who buys an Apple TV probably already has a Netflix app on some iOS device.
That makes more sense.
One thing that the Apple TV definitely feels like half-baked is the music. Because already music on the Apple III was kind of junky. They really didn't do much, to the point where if you'd subscribed to Apple Music, it actually wouldn't work on the Apple III. So on the Apple IV, now you get access to your Apple Music, you get access to your For You and to the new, but it's still not a great interface when you're playing. You can't turn on shuffle. There's not a shuffle option. If you want to shuffle something, you can. It really seems like the only thing you can do is click Shuffle Playlist. From when you're picking a song. The controls in that are still junky, and that seems like a really weird oversight when Apple Music is a big thing for them, when the Apple TV is a big thing, And
Apple Music isn't integrated into the Siri search yet. It's apparently coming after the first of the year, according to BuzzFeed sources, but that's not there. Podcast app. Again, we're seeing, a video promo for Apple TV that shows the podcast app on the screen, but it's not actually in there. That apparently might be coming.
Nobody listens to them anymore, turns out.
Apple-like not to have everything in place that's an Apple service.
And they just re-updated the podcast app, which is the confusing thing. They just re-updated it for iOS 9 to match the music app. And so either all of that stuff is way, way low on the priority list, or they're making a call about podcasts.
That must be it. They spent all their time on the iOS 9 app, and they didn't spend any time on the Apple TV OS app. I think this will get better. I'm not sure it's worth the extra money that you pay for it, but if you're in the Apple universe, it probably is.
So speaking of different universes, I got to sit here and listen to your take on the Apple TV. But since most of the content that I own, and when I buy stuff, when I buy series, it's usually on the Amazon environment, I went ahead and pulled the trigger today to get the gaming edition of the new Fire TV, and which I'm excited about. I don't know, trying out with the kids and seeing how the gaming stuff works. So I'll have an actual, remote and check out the voice integration because it now has Alexa, and as we'll learn later on, a bit of shopping.
Yeah, exactly. No, we won't learn.
Oh, that's right. We cut that story. Hey, I'll tell you right now. Now you can shop on the Fire TV.
Yeah, you can do a little shopping, which you would expect, right, from Amazon, especially now that you have the voice command stuff. So there's that. Okay, before we get to the front lines, real quickly, Brian, Andrew, I watched Star Wars: The Phantom Menace yesterday.
On purpose?
On purpose.
Hey, you kept it a secret, though. You're not telling the whole world.
I also am launching a new podcast.
Well, that's good, because if there's two things that I thought you really needed to be doing was launching another podcast and rewatching The Phantom Menace. Two things Tom Merritt needs to be doing at all times.
So with The Force Awakens coming out December 17th, I wanted to rewatch all the movies, one a week leading up to the premiere. And I thought a fun thing to do along the way and to make myself have a little more of a different approach. I am going to do a podcast and YouTube series called Pretend I'm Dumb About Star Wars. You can go subscribe to it at tommerritt.com. You'll see posts for it there under PIDASW. But I am going, even though I'm not unaware of Star Wars, I'm going to try to pretend like I've never seen any of these movies and watch them 1 through 7 in a row and try to say like, okay, if I'd never seen this before, what would I think? Obviously, that's most fun with episodes 1 and maybe 2 and 3.
Although you could do the reverse, because you could go into 4, 5, and 6 as somebody who's seen the other ones leading up to this, and you're like, well, it's kind of weird the way they presented Yoda as. So do you do this all first person as if you're the person who's dumb and ignorant?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm up front at the beginning of every episode. I'll be like, look, I've definitely seen all these movies and I've got all these toys and everything, but I'm going to say, like, if I weren't that person, what would I think? So I talk about, like, well, there's the good robe guys and the bad robe guys, and the little green guy seems to be in charge. And, basically all the things that Brian and I do on Spoiler in Time, the shows we're watching.
That is amazing. We can't know the character names for anyone. We're like, the old grandfather
I try to
guy.
be like, okay, how long would it take me to actually legitimately learn a character name roughly before I get there?
Oh, that's amazing.
Qui-Gon Jinn, who's ever going to learn that guy's name? Like, that's just not going to happen. So they and what's interesting is they never use the word lightsaber in episode 1. I'd never noticed that before. It is referred to as laser sword by little special guy, as I call him. And that's the only time it's referred to.
Wait, Anakin Skywalker calls it a laser sword, and that's it?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is amazing.
All right, let's get to the front lines.
Yeah. Front lines.
UK's Sky Arts TV channel is giving Neil Gaiman an anthology show called Neil Gaiman's Likely Stories. The series will adapt 4 of Gaiman's short stories. Production will begin at the end of November, and it will be directed by artistes Ian Forsyth and Jane Pollard.
I think this is wonderful. I mean, this feels to us like expanding on the territory that was forged by Black Mirror. Gives us an opportunity to see some really unusual, bizarre stuff. How excited are you, Andrew?
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the success of Black Mirror in the anthology type format has shown that you can do that. Neil Gaiman. I mean, I wish there was somebody who was more popular, more beloved than Neil Gaiman. But what can you do?
He's from Minnesota or something. Is that right?
Something like that. Yeah. I mean, it's like everybody loves Neil Gaiman, and so I think that's great. I'm stoked to see where this goes and what happens with this. I love the idea that TV could be a place where you could do. There were so many really great, like, one-off type shows they used to do a long time ago. Like, did you ever see Steven Spielberg did a thing called? It was part of the name game, which was this weird magazine, and it was a show about people who made this anthology. But he did this futuristic episode that was like THX 1138 before it came out.
Huh?
No,
it's. Pull this out for you because but it's neat. There was a lot of really cool stuff that was sort of done a long time ago, and we're getting a reboot of Amazing Stories. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. And obviously Black Mirror is a very like successful anthology story that I think a lot of people are looking to. And you could call this a Me Too thing if it wasn't for the fact that they freaking got Neil Gaiman to do it. So I'm curious where it's going to come to in the United States. I would like to see it come to like a Hulu or Amazon or something.
LA 2017 was a thing Steven Spielberg did because he actually got to start doing some of the short type anthology things like Duel based on Richard Matheson stuff. And to see a resurgence of that, that's where we got a lot of our great writers and directors from. So
that's awesome.
LA
Netflix
2017
content
will be coming true in a mere 2 years.
That's true. It will be 2017 in LA. And Netflix content chief Ted Sarandos told Deadline that Beasts of No Nation has more than 3 million views after its first 2 weekends of availability, with an estimated average worldwide ticket price of $4.86. That would be equivalent to a worldwide gross premiere of $14,580,000. $580,000, yeah. For comparison, that's better than the second best exotic Marigold Hotel. Of course, this is apples to oranges, since obviously, we don't know how they count a view. We don't know if they count the entire movie. We don't know.
Our shows would be doing Transformer numbers by that if you combine it. That's just that. I love Netflix, love Sarandos, but comparing views on a free streaming service to what that would have been if it had been a bought theatrical release, it's
by the way, that was me writing up the like average ticket price and everything. Netflix.
Oh, that was the idiot who did it. God.
Yeah. Just so we don't impugn poor Ted Sarandos.
I'm sorry.
They said just 3 million views, and in fact, earlier today I had remarked to Tom like it was so strange to see the word views coupled with a feature-length movie, because we're accustomed to thinking of views in terms of YouTube videos. Click.
And so when Brian said that, I was like, well, I wonder what 3 million, like if 3 million people went to the movie, what would be the estimated gross of that? So that's the reason I did that, man.
Well, and even at that generous number, because I'm with Andrew. I think that the likelihood that all those views are people who watched the entire movie, and that all those views would have remotely been possible if people were being asked to pay before they could see it. I think really it puts it in my mind as probably sub $5 million premiere in the first 2 weeks, which is
look at
better than Steve Jobs.
That's true.
Everybody who opened up their Netflix app in the last 2 weeks saw an ad, saw this in front of them, and had the options to click right there to say watch.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure it's fantastic. Have not seen it yet. Love everybody involved.
It's a laugh riot, let me tell you. That's make sure to have your wife watch it
to pick
with
up
you.
your day.
Yeah.
Don't watch Beasts of No Nation.
A coming of age film we can all relate to.
Oh my God. Yeah, that age being 8.
The British Film Institute will supplement its purchase and rental service BFI Player with a new subscription service for £5 per month. BFI Player Plus has more than 300 movies and will be adding more in future. Service will highlight curated classics and contemporary films, including a weekly pick from English film critic Mark Kermode. The service will be available for desktop, tablet, and phone, not for your TV.
Okay, hold on. Walk me through this. It's a brand new subscription service at $5 per month. It's
£5 per month.
Sorry, £5 per month, making it more expensive than CBS. CBS is online,
right? But cheaper than Netflix.
Cheaper than Netflix. Yeah. So like Netflix, I assume they have a lot of movies. How many thousands of movies do they have?
They have more than 300 movies.
3,000
quality movies, though. We're not talking about straight to DVD titles like Netflix has.
Well, I mean, as long as I get to watch them in the most sophisticated environment in my home.
Yeah, because clearly fidelity is
using
important.
your phone to AirPlay it to your new Apple TV, you can.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I mean, I am thrilled that so many people have shown up to the dance. Some people may want to go home and practice their moves a little bit before they come back. I mean, it's good. It's good that we have more competitors. I don't know that this is the most compelling thing I'm seeing.
It seems like you need to know more about what to watch. So let's move on to Under Surveillance.
Oh, I see what you did there. Well played.
Where you can, for free on YouTube, watch a documentary by Leslie Chilcott called Code Girl, at least until November 5th. It will be coming to theaters in a couple of weeks, but you can get it for free right now before it comes to the theaters. Leslie Chilcott did Waiting for Superman and Convenient Truth. So she was part of this Google program to encourage women to code, and Code Girl is the result.
That's awesome. Meanwhile, thank you.
That's all you got? Okay.
I mean, it's certainly something that I'll want to. It's always very weird because it's like I almost would feel weird sitting down to watch it with my kids or I mean, I don't know, I'll watch it, but this is the kind of thing. There are so many bad documentaries out there that pander to one particular objective rather than worry about good, quality filmmaking. And so it's like, I'll wait for the reputation of this one to get to me before I give it a try.
All right. How about the reputation of David Cross and Bob Odenkirk?
It's sterling, and I'll watch it immediately, as I did the first 2 sketches released on their the Netflix YouTube channel, both of which I thought for sure that with Bob and David would have a faster pacing than Mr. Show, because you go back and, Mr. Show was comedy of the late 90s, and we had a little more relaxed pace to some of our videos. We let ideas simmer, but before in the 3rd minute, you caught the twist and saw where they were going. But instead, they have that same relaxed Mr. Show pacing. It felt just like Mr. Show never ended.
Fantastic. No, I know. The one where they're playing poker, I just felt like I was watching a new Mr. Show sketch. Absolutely. The one that just has David Cross could be Mr. Show, could not. Doesn't matter to me. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Andrew, are you stoked about this, or were you much of a Mr. Show fan to begin with?
These are comedians, right?
Okay, all right. And
no, let me put it. It's one of those things I watched a little bit. I go, oh, this is great. I can't wait until I have the time to go watch it. And that's like, I still have entire 5 seasons of Seinfeld to make my way through.
Fair enough.
Fox is picking up a reboot of The Greatest American Hero. It'll be written and directed by Rick Famuyiwa, who did Dope and Talk to Me. Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who are the directing pair that were involved in 21 Jump Street and the Lego Movie, will also be on board, as will Tanya McKiernan, daughter of Stephen J. Cannell, who created the original Greatest American Hero and the original 21 Jump Street TV show.
Man, all of those movies have a kind of ironic self-awareness about them, and I wonder how they're going to involve that, because part of me says you can't remake it. It was so, I don't know, campy. I'm sitting there watching it right now. I'm giggling. But
my biggest question is, if you remake it and you name the character Mr. Hinckley, will another Hinckley try to assassinate another U.S. president?
Okay, all right. I am cautiously optimistic, but then again, I haven't gone back and rewatched the original Greatest American Hero to know whether or not it stands the test of time.
Look at what happened to me. Nobody else? Okay, good.
But I remember that came out as a reaction to the popularity of Superman, and it was, like you point out, kind of a post sort of ironic sort of take on that. And it really was, it was a very well thought out show for that period of time. It had a lot of heart to it, and it was just a very cool. I enjoyed it as a kid. I mean, we were really crazy. Guy flying, you kidding? Connie Selleck.
In all seriousness, too, at the time of its beginning in the early '80s, it had a somewhat unprecedented self-awareness and poking fun at a superhero form. So if they can update that to our present sensibilities, like Brian said, they could have something really special there. I don't know.
Hey, so what have you been watching on your TV screens, Andrew Main?
Been watching Addams Family. That's on Netflix right now. So I've been watching a little bit at a night, little 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. What a wonderful film. What a wonderful film. And what I did not know about the origins of the Addams Family is actually Addams, the guy who did the little comic strips that they were based upon, that came from a conversation he had with Ray Bradbury.
No kidding.
And Bradbury, went off and did his own thing, like the Ellises or something like that, did his own little creepy, weird family story. And Addams went and created this wonderful franchise. And you watch the movie directed by Barry Sonnenfeld, and you see Raul Julia in just wonderful, radiant form.
Prime Raul Julia. Fantastic.
Angelica Houston, Christopher Lloyd, Christina Ricci, the little girl. It's like, we're going to play a game. It's called Is There a God? And she's about to electrocute Pugsley.
That's amazing.
So Brian, what about yourself?
Man, I've been catching up on. I've been playing a little bit of the Hearthstone, and I find myself wanting just something on in the background. So I'm finally catching up on Bob's Burgers, just the standard vanilla Hulu experience. I'm not even removing the ads. It's like the ads don't bother me when I'm doing something else. The Prophet came back out. It's on Hulu right now. So a new episode.
You can watch Bob's Burgers on Netflix without ads.
Well, I've already watched those, but you only get the first two seasons.
So this is the season that's not on Netflix.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, recent episodes. And the Prophet, man, you could tell that they saved this episode with a big fat mid-season break, and they intentionally waited to have the GOP debates as their lead-in because it's got this, roll up your sleeves, small town business America thing. They do everything the prophet does. Turned up to 11. They get the dude crying in the first 5 minutes. The checks that he writes is 7 digits.
Huge.
It's gigantic. And then and the reveal of the updated place. It's just you don't have to watch any previous episode of The Prophet. You can jump in right now.
Now you said you watched that on Hulu
Yeah.
on your computer.
Yes.
Okay, it is not on the TV.
What?
Yeah.
So maybe
I had to watch it on
like
the
a Hulu
MSNBC
Plus thing?
app.
This is one of the things that still drives me crazy about Hulu is on the desktop, they make these deals with networks like Sci-Fi in particular, but it sounds like this one as well.
Yeah, CNBC,
where they
not
will
MSNBC.
bring in the proprietary player and advertising from that network in the browser, but they don't have the rights to put it in the app.
Right.
Right. So at any rate, I watched it, enjoyed it a lot, and I went back and I picked up Narcos again. Watched another 3 episodes of that. Just gets better and better. Once you are just steeped in that world. Bonnie came in halfway through and just got sucked in, and so she's watching as well. And of course, I've watched The Flash. Episodes 1 through 4. Again, in the background, it's like when you're binging straight through and there's no commercials, and sure it's low budget, so sure it's cartoonish and stuff, made of rubber, and sure the writing is a little kludgy, but I just
About The Flash?
I'm digging it. Oh yeah, come on. I mean, not the concepts, but it's got
what's this high-budget TV special effects shows you're talking about?
I'm talking about Daredevil on Netflix, man. That's a television show doing a comic book movie and doing it right, feeling like a movie the entire time.
I would say their effects are, considering that, a Flash has to have a bigger effect, do a lot more effects, but I would say they're kind of on par. And compare, I like the Flash, I look better than S.H.I.E.L.D., which had a much bigger budget, actually.
Yes, well, okay, I am not defending S.H.I.E.L.D., Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I am saying that I like for what it is, the Flash has been very cute, and I enjoy my kids kind of coming in, watching it a little bit. And
Yeah,
getting,
I agree with Andrew, but I know what you mean, Brian. It's not the budget. It's not how much they're spending on the Flash. It's the very clean, spick and span look of it. It's not dirty and gritty and deep and rich in the way it looks.
Looks like a
but it's still
CW
fun.
show.
Yeah, exactly. It's a CW show. Correct. I mean, it feels I don't know, overly clean. And of course, we watched The Shield, Fargo, and The Leftovers. We'll talk about those in spoiler in time. What about you, Tom?
I am watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I have to say this was the best episode of the entire run so far. I'm not sure it's an episode you could jump in and enjoy if you don't know the story, but it's all told. I don't want to be too spoilery, but basically a character is lost at some point, and we get a very classic, let's do an entire episode from their perspective of while they were lost, kind of flashback sort of thing. And I thought it was really well done. I've also been keeping up on Haven, and it's in its last run. And I would recommend, if you haven't started Haven, starting it, because it seems like it's going to finish pretty strong. For some reason, I had HBO Now up and started watching Night at the Museum, Secret of the Tomb. And it's kind of what you're saying, Brian. Eileen and I were just doing other things on the couch, but we had it on and it was really enjoyable. It was nicely done. They're just running in the background, had some good stuff. And I watched Supergirl, the premiere finally, and I thought it was nice. I thought it was great. I thought they did a really good job of having her be an actual superhero and moving you through, let's have origin story and let's address the fact that she's Superman's cousin, and let's get the evil guy in, and let's just move through all of this stuff and not take 6-7 episodes to do it, and just get you to the good part of her, knowing her purpose, working with her sidekicks, and fighting the crimes. And that's what it looks like they're going to start with next episode.
Right on. Bryce, what's on the lookout?
And Doctor Who, I'm still watching and enjoying. I think it's best Peter Capaldi season. It's obviously only the second of his seasons, but so far so good there. Walking Dead, we had a Morgan episode this week. If you've been wondering what Morgan's been up to, it's all about him.
Yes, man, you watch a lot more television than I do. I'm always playing catch up, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have 3 daughters, so that makes a big difference. And it's just the kind of thing you can have on and get stuff done. I watched The Leftovers while I was making salad, for instance.
Well,
that's I never watch a show while I'm doing something else, the exception being a documentary that I can listen to.
interesting.
Yeah. Bryce, what have you been watching? I know what you've been watching. It's the same thing Eileen's been watching, which I haven't.
And you've probably, if you follow me on Twitter, you've seen me tweeting about this the past couple weeks. I am in love with Project Greenlight on HBO. The premise is that HBO says, hey, we're going to give $3 million to a first-time director to make a movie, a real movie. The Farrelly brothers co-wrote a big comedy, and it shows you the entire process, and it shows you just how big the Hollywood machine is and sort of why. And there's a lot of drama that goes on. The director that they end up picking, they go on stage. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are there because they're EPs on the show. They bring him up on stage. They congratulate him, and everyone cheers. They go off stage, and the director pulls him over and says, "I want to fire the writer.
Wow.
I want to fire the dude who wrote it." And that's not even the craziest part. It gets crazier. And as someone who kind of does low, no budget production stuff, there's a lot of stuff that infuriates me. But the season just wrapped, and so it's on HBO Now and HBO Go. And the movie that they made is premiering, or is available tonight at 10 Eastern or something. So it's an interesting experience because the last time they did a season of the show was 10 years ago, where you couldn't have been able to watch all of it at your leisure and then watch the movie that it was made. You'd be beholden to whatever HBO's TV schedule was. So I think that's interesting. So that's 8 half-hour episodes through HBO Now and Go, and then the movie.
Wow. Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. I just assumed Project Greenlight had been running every year, and I just hadn't heard about it for a while.
One season in a movie.
That's what I figured.
This season's particularly buzzworthy too for some reason.
Yeah.
Let's get to our dispatches from the front. I always forget that we have such a elegant intro for this, and I yell it. But hey, we got emails from Josh and Dave, both talking about the football streaming on Yahoo, and they bring up some good points about what you need to keep in mind when you think about that number that we were talking about. First of all, this football game was early on Sunday morning when a lot of people were still sleeping. So it's not like it was in prime time or even in the middle of the day. It was the Jaguars versus the Bills, which doesn't mean much to me, but apparently not a big draw on a normal Sunday and probably a third or fourth tier game. So it's not going to pull people in just because of who's playing. It was from London. That was kind of the big deal here. And, those are some of the things you need to keep in mind is hey, it was kind of up against a problem to begin with. So it's not going to get the same numbers that a normal NFL game would get anyway.
I mean, does anybody think that there's no future in watching sports on the internet?
Yeah, well, clearly that's not the case. But the question, but also, it's also the most entangled of all the content streams. It's the one that has the most, region locked and difficult exclusives everywhere. So it's the nastiest knot to unfurl. We got an email from a guy named Justin Young, not our Justin Young. It's Justin from Dallas. He says, hey, guys, listened to your latest episode and heard you talking about the box office deal Paranormal Activity is using for theaters and streaming. I was amazed that you didn't know about the other thing that is happening with that movie. When we saw it over the opening weekend, it had 3 ads for one movie in between every trailer they showed. Then as soon as the movie ended and the credits started rolling, they played a longer ad. That's right. There's an ad for a movie inside of this movie. I was furious. Love the show. Justin from Dallas. Thank you very much, Justin.
Why is he amazed?
Just because it's just wearing it on its sleeve, I assume. It's so brazen that it is a very un-movie box office like experience. That you're accustomed to DVDs popping them in and getting a bunch of ads for a bunch of crap, but not.
Well, I'm glad that Justin wrote in about it because he's the first person I heard mention it, and it is a weird thing. Really weird.
Who directed? I mean, rather, what was the movie they were showing?
I don't know. It doesn't say here, and I didn't.
And it's Blumhouse, which is
apparently
obviously,
it's Paranormal Activity was the movie that was showing, and they were doing the ads.
What was they said there was commercial for one
for the same for the same movie 3 times.
He doesn't say which one they were advertising.
Yeah,
and this is it's part of it's Blumhouse, so who knows if this is some other new profit model? Like, hey, we got to make money for Jim. Let's run some commercials.
Yeah,
it is weird to have ads for another movie in between trailers, but it could also just be an experimental trailer thing where they're like, let's have the trailer parse out at 3 parts. I mean, if it's an ad for another movie, it's just another trailer. So
yeah, and also like the theaters have a certain amount of control over that. I know when I used to be a projectionist, is you'd have like, okay, this goes in front of the 20th Century Fox, but then you can put these other things in front of there. So it's not always necessarily the studio that decides what you're seeing in front of there. Certainly, at the end of the movie, there's a trailer. Then yes.
We got an email from Matt in Sterling, Virginia. Says, I wonder if part of the reason that Community failed on Yahoo. And I'm not going to say it failed on Yahoo, but, obviously didn't do what Yahoo wanted to, was the Yahoo video app itself. It's gotten better, but it's always been pretty bad. When Community first started, I think the app was still annoyingly auto-playing video when you started it, and it made it really hard to find what you wanted. I'm a huge fan of Community and consider it one of my top 5 favorite sitcoms of the last decade, but being on Yahoo kind of killed it for me. If it were still on TV or had gone to Netflix, I would have watched it because it would have been in front of my eyeballs already. I don't know what app Matt was using, but I never had it do any of those things to me. The reason I stopped watching it is because I forgot.
Which is just as bad. Hey, Mike writes in saying, hey, Brian and Tom, in episode 93, you discussed the story about Vice buying TV stations overseas and partnering with current content providers here in the States. Over the summer, I attended a book signing Q&A with, do we name names here, Tom? On this email?
No, I mean, this is just Mike saying what he heard at a book signing.
Okay, got it.
It's a public book signing, though, so I don't think there's any NDAs or anything.
Okay, public book signing Q&A with Brad Metzler, or Meltzer? Here in North Virginia. During the session, the question about when to expect new episodes of Lost History. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, that he's currently met with History and they were working something out. One of the issues was that H2 was going away and going to become Vice TV. History and H2 are owned by A&E, which back in August 2014 struck a deal with Vice. After hearing this, I found these articles from April 2015 from The Hollywood Reporter and New York Times confirming it, which made me sad because I like Lost History. Hugs and kisses.
I mean, this we don't know that H2 is going to be the actual Vice channel we were talking about, but it certainly seems likely based on what Mike's saying here.
Yeah, that's some good detective work.
And they can move things around their platform however they want. I had a friend that did a show that was on there on A&E here. In other countries, it was on Lifetime. In other countries, it was on History Channel. So.
Wow.
Yeah, and
just a guy.
And it is confirmed that Quartz reported that H2 would be replaced by Vice. The question is that just A&E owning a channel and putting Vice on it, or is that a bigger deal where Vice is buying the channel from A&E? But I would assume that my H2 channel on Sling TV is going to be replaced by Vice.
Yeah, no, A&E will own the channel. It's a content deal.
Well, but that's what they reported back in April. What we reported last week is that Vice is buying actual channels. Okay. They're purchasing them for themselves. That may be only in Europe, though. I would agree with you, Andrew. That seems unlikely that A&E would sell off H2, or at least the channel that H2 is on.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what will sell are copies of How to Write a Novella in 24 Hours.
I know.
Andrew, where can we read more of your books?
You can read more of my books in a book format. You can go to andrewmain.com. If you sign up for a mailing list, everybody is on my email list, by the way. They were told where to get this for free as an ebook, which I like to promote and send stuff out there. So if you go to andrewmain.com, you can sign up there. This book right now is on Amazon for just 99 cents. You can get a paperback copy for just $4.99. More stuff coming this week, what's this? Paperback copy of Public Enemy Zero. It's right now being sold for the bargain basement price of $9.99, where I make 46 cents a piece. But hey, I do it for you. And if you send me proof of purchase, I'll actually send you a book plate you can shove inside of there.
Right on, man.
Book plate. That's cool. Well, that is it for us. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Brian, we're done.
Yay! Hey guys, Tom and Brian here. We just wanted to say thank you to all of our $5 patrons who keep us loud, live, and independent. You guys make Cordkillers the production that it is.
Your name appears in the video credits and appears in our hearts. And if you'd like to become one of them or see who they are, you can go to patreon.com/Cordkillers.
You'll need to do more than just go there, though. You'll have to sign up and, pledge an amount. But
Unless you just want to see who they are.
Well, I mean, you could gawk. That's a little creepy, isn't it?
If you want to be a gawker,
Let's go.
it's up to you.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.